evening. It's Thursday, 20th of March, and here's what's making news around the world on World News Tonight. Gaza offensive. Israeli forces launch new ground operation amid escalating conflict. JFK secrets. US releases final trove of John F. Kennedy assassination files. Cosmic breakthrough. European telescope reveals stunning new dark universe images.
From Colombo, this is World News Tonight with Prashansa Gunawardana.
Good evening once again. The Israeli military has launched a new ground operation in Gaza following the breakdown of a 2-month ceasefire with Hamas. The offensive aims to regain control of strategic areas, escalating tensions in the region.
The Israeli military said on Wednesday its forces have resumed ground operations in Gaza. And it said this is footage of their troops patrolling Gaza City. The military said its operations have extended Israel's control over the Netzarim corridor, which bisects Gaza. It described this as a, quote, focused manoeuvre aimed at creating a partial buffer zone between the north and south of the enclave. The move comes on the second day of airstrikes in Gaza, which have killed dozens, according to local health workers. Gaza health officials said Tuesday's airstrike killed over 400 people, marking one of the highest single-day death tolls since the beginning of the conflict. The United Nations said an Israeli airstrike had killed a foreign staffer and wounded several workers at the site of a UN headquarters in central Gaza City on Wednesday. But Israel denied this, saying it had hit a Hamas site, where it had detected preparations for firing into Israeli territory. Israel warned the onslaught was, quote, just the beginning. Both Israel and Hamas accuse each other of breaching the truce, which had offered respite for Gaza's 2.3 million residents after 17 months of war, which had reduced the enclave to rubble.
Hamas refused offer after offer.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that he'd ordered strikes because Hamas had rejected proposals to secure a ceasefire extension until April. Meanwhile, thousands of Israelis demonstrated against Netanyahu and his government on Wednesday. Many said the renewed fighting risked the lives of the remaining hostages still held by Hamas since October the 7th, 2023. The war was triggered by a Hamas-led attack on southern Israel on October the 7th, 2023, in which gunmen killed some 1,200 people and took about 250 hostages, according to Israeli tallies. Since then, Israel's campaign has killed more than 49,000 people in Gaza, Palestinian health authorities say, and caused a humanitarian crisis. Israel has accused Hamas of using Palestinian civilians as human shields. Hamas denies this and accuses Israel of indiscriminate bombings.
In a recent phone call, US President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky pledged to collaborate on ending the ongoing war in Ukraine, focusing on establishing a limited ceasefire targeting energy infrastructure.
Freed Ukrainian prisoners of war celebrated on Wednesday, after Russia and Ukraine each agreed to release 175 captured troops. Moscow said it freed an additional 22 wounded Ukrainians as a goodwill gesture, following a phone call between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. But just hours after that call, in which a deal was reached to pause attacks on energy infrastructure, both Russia and Ukraine accused each other of violating the new agreement. Moscow said Ukraine hit an oil depot in southern Russia, while Kyiv said Russia had struck hospitals and homes and knocked out power to some of its railways. This all came on the same day that Trump had a phone call with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky that Trump described as very good. Before their conversation, Zelensky said Moscow's continued attacks showed its words did not match its actions, and that Russia was not ready for peace. He also said that the United States should be in charge of monitoring any ceasefire.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
The hour-long call on Wednesday between Trump and Zelensky was their first conversation since an Oval Office meeting descended into a shouting match in late February.
Intelligence sharing in terms of defense for Ukraine will continue to be shared.
Later, White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt said Zelensky asked Trump for additional air defense support, and that Trump said he would help locate the equipment in Europe. She also said Trump has moved beyond a previously negotiated U.S.-Ukraine minerals deal
We've moved beyond just the economic minerals deal framework, and we're looking at a lasting ceasefire. Right now, we're at a partial ceasefire, but again, the president is sending his highly skilled, intelligent, and experienced team to Saudi Arabia later this week to continue fighting for peace in this conflict.
Trump has long promised to end Europe's deadliest conflict since World War II, but his outreach to Putin has unnerved European allies, who fear it heralds a fundamental shift after 80 years in which defending Europe from Russian expansionism was the core mission of U.S. foreign policy.
Indian authorities have detained hundreds of farmers and dismantled protest sites as police intensified actions against ongoing agricultural demonstrations, leading to heightened tensions and debates over farmers' rights.
In Punjab, India, a significant crackdown on farmers' protests unfolded as authorities detained hundreds of demonstrators and dismantled encampments at key border sites. The Punjab police, employing bulldozers, cleared the Shambhu and Kanburi border areas where farmers had been protesting for over a year, demanding better crop prices and state support. Prominent farmer leaders, including Jagjit Singh and Sarwan Singh, were among those detained. The crackdown follows previous confrontations, such as the halted Dilli Chalo march in December 2024, where farmers sought to press their demands but faced police resistance. The recent actions have intensified debates over farmers' rights and the government's agricultural policies. The dismantling of protest sites and the detention of leaders mark a pivotal moment in the standoff between the government and the farming community.
Anticipation builds in South Korea as the court ruling date for President Yoon approaches, with potential implications for the nation's political landscape and public sentiment.
Dozens have gathered, shouting and waving signs. The voices of the protesters echo on nearby streets. Speculation had arisen that South Korea's Constitutional Court would announce the date for its ruling on President Yoon's impeachment on Wednesday, so it comes as no surprise that the protesters had gathered. Starting from early morning, those who are against the impeachment have been waving the Korean and American flags while shouting that the impeachment should be voided. Their supporters included members of Save Korea, a religious advocacy group, as well as the Liberty Unification Party. A handful of them had camped out overnight, while some set up a one-person relay demonstration. Those in support of the impeachment clustered together in nearby streets and close to Gwanghwamun Square. Bereaved families from the Itaewon tragedy performed the 159-bow ceremony in hopes of President Yoon's impeachment, while other groups, including Pan Youth Action, also gathered for the protest. Those in favor of impeachment also held candlelit rallies. As the sentencing date is expected in the coming days, protests from different groups are set to continue. The police are to mobilize all available personnel to respond and maintain order at the competing rallies.
Turkish police have arrested the mayor of Istanbul on charges of corruption and alleged terror links, a move that could significantly impact the city's governance and political dynamics.
He's Recep Tayyip Erdogan's biggest rival, and now Ekrem İmamoğlu's legal troubles are growing. This was the scene outside his home on Wednesday morning after Turkish police detained him as part of an investigation into corruption and terrorism. On Tuesday, İmamoğlu was effectively disqualified from running in the next presidential election, leading his MPs to protest in parliament. That was after Istanbul University revoked the diploma that he obtained in 1995 on the grounds of irregularities in his transfer from a private university in northern Cyprus. The move has serious consequences. In Turkey, to become president, a candidate must hold a university degree. His party, the main opposition, Republican People's Party, was expected to select İmamoğlu officially as candidate in a primary on Sunday, ahead of the 2028 presidential election. Istanbul's mayor has slammed the decision as illegitimate. Ekrem İmamoğlu emerged as a threat to Recep Tayyip Erdogan after beating his AKP party candidate at municipal elections in 2019 and 2024 in Istanbul. In 2019, İmamoğlu even extended his lead after the vote was cancelled and a rerun was held. But since then, he's been in the crosshairs of Turkish justice. He's already appealing a 2022 conviction for insulting members of Turkey's Supreme Electoral Council, which could result in a political ban.
Let's take a short commercial break. More world news on the other side. Welcome back. The United States has released the final trove of secret files related to President John F. Kennedy's assassination, offering historians and the public new insights into the pivotal historical event.
It's been more than 60 years since John F. Kennedy touched down in Dallas, only to greet a grim destiny.
At 1:25, the motorcade moves into the downtown area. Death is 6 minutes away.
But to this day, his assassination remains the source of countless conspiracy theories. On Tuesday, more than 2,000 additional files, consisting of some 63,000 pages, were published on America's National Archives website. The new information is only a fraction of the 6 million pages previously released. Experts have cast doubt it will change the underlying facts, but say the documents will take time to sift through and that some passages were blocked out. The government investigation concluded that 24-year-old Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone in Kennedy's murder, but more than 65% of Americans still believe JFK's assassination was a conspiracy, according to a 2023 Gallup poll. Theories include multiple shooters and involvement from the Soviet Union and mafia. Declassifying these files was one of President Donald Trump's campaign promises, an order he signed a few days after his return to office. The National Archives say that around 99% of the known Kennedy papers have now been publicly disclosed.
Starting next month, the European Union plans to reduce steel imports by up to 15%, a measure aimed at protecting domestic industries and addressing global trade imbalances.
The EU will tighten steel import quotas to reduce inflows by a further 15% from April. The news came from an EU official on Wednesday. It's aimed at preventing cheap steel flooding the European market after Washington imposed new tariffs. European steel producers are already battling high energy prices and competition from Asia and elsewhere. They warn that the EU risks becoming a dumping ground for cheap steel diverted from the US market, which they say could kill off Europe's plants. The CEO of Europe's number 2 steelmaker ThyssenKrupp said on Wednesday the US imported around 23 million metric tons of steel last year, and that those volumes were now looking for other destinations, including Europe, as a result of US import tariffs. The Commission is to propose a raft of trade-related measures to boost its ailing metals industry, and will also consult aluminium producers facing similar headaches to steelmakers.
The German government has approved an additional $3.3 billion in military aid for Ukraine, reinforcing its commitment to supporting Ukraine amid ongoing conflicts.
In Germany, the outgoing government has approved approximately $3.3 billion in additional military aid for Ukraine. The decision, announced by the Finance Ministry on Wednesday local time, follows a recent fiscal policy overhaul that allows increased borrowing to support defense initiatives. The aid package includes $2.8 billion allocated for immediate military assistance, supplemented by reimbursements from the European Peace Facility. Germany also plans to commit an additional $8.9 billion between 2026 and 2029 to bolster Ukraine's defense capabilities.
The presidents of Congo and Rwanda have met in Qatar to discuss the ongoing conflict in eastern Congo, seeking diplomatic solutions to long-standing regional tensions.
Presidents of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda convened in Qatar to address the escalating conflict in eastern DRC in their first in-person encounter since hostilities resurged in the region earlier this year. President Felix Tshisekedi of the DRC and President Paul Kagame of Rwanda met in Doha on Tuesday, facilitated by Qatari Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. The leaders jointly called for an immediate and unconditional ceasefire in eastern DRC to stop the ongoing violence that has resulted in thousands of deaths and the displacement of millions. The conflict intensified in January when the M23 rebel group, reportedly backed by Rwanda, captured key cities in the mineral-rich eastern region of the DRC. The DRC government accuses Rwanda of supporting the M23 rebels, while Rwanda denies the claim, asserting its forces act in self-defense.
Mexico City has enacted a ban on violent bullfighting, a decision that has sparked both fury and celebration, reflecting deep cultural divides and debates over animal rights.
A tradition deeply embedded in Mexico's cultural fabric now faces a dramatic shift. On Tuesday, lawmakers in Mexico City voted overwhelmingly in favor of banning violent bullfighting. The new legislation prohibits the killing of bulls and the use of sharp objects that can injure the animal during events. The move has ignited passionate protests as bullfighting supporters and matadors rallied outside Congress, accusing lawmakers of attacking a cherished heritage. Some attempted to breach police barricades, holding signs that read, "Being a fan of La Fiesta Brava is not a crime, it's a point of pride." But for animal rights activists, it's a long-awaited victory. Campaigners from organizations like Culture Without Torture hailed the ban as a monumental step in animal protection, even if it doesn't end the spectacle altogether. The decision seeks a middle ground, preserving the spectacle without the violence. It introduces time limits in the ring, bans lethal instruments, and allows for bloodless bullfighting, similar to forms seen in California, where bulls are not harmed. Bullfighting was already dealt a blow in 2022 when a judge banned the practice, citing residents' right to a violence-free environment. But in 2023, Mexico's Supreme Court overturned the ban and the crowds returned. While this move ends centuries of violent tradition in Mexico City, it also reignites national debate between cultural preservation and animal welfare.
Let's take a short commercial break. More world news on the other side. Welcome back. An experimental brain tumor treatment has shown promise for pediatric brain cancer, offering hope for improved outcomes in affected children. Take a look.
At 6 years old, Gavin is full of energy.
There you go.
But just 4 years ago, his parents Ashley and Nate Nielsen felt something was off. After going in for an exam, their doctor rushed him for a head MRI, which confirmed the worst. Gavin had an incurable brain tumor. The Nielsens say the next question, almost impossible for them to ask. He was diagnosed with diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma, or DIPG, the most deadly and fastest growing brain cancer in kids. It affects several hundred children each year in the US. But now, new hope. Dr. Nick Vitanza has been with Gavin since day one. He's a pediatric oncologist at Seattle Children's Hospital, leading a study giving children with DIPG superpowered cells that try to fight the disease. It takes cells already in our body, called T cells, and trains them to attack the cancer. The FDA has already approved CAR T therapy to treat certain types of blood cancers, including leukemia and lymphoma. And in this case, it's literally going in the brain.
And overall, their survival has been about 20 months, with 3 of those children still alive.
But a larger Phase 2 study will be launching around the country later this year. Gavin started treatment when he was 2 years old and just celebrated his 6th birthday, with very little evidence of cancer in his brain.
The legacy of Cesaria Evora, the barefoot diva, continues to thrive in Cape Verde as her music and cultural contributions remain influential and celebrated.
An unforgettable melody, one that often soundtracks Cape Verdean nights and is etched into the hearts of its musicians. Saudade, the global hit by Cesaria Evora, put the West African archipelago on the map. Known as the Barefoot Diva, she often performed without shoes in her native Creole. 14 years after Cesaria's death, her legacy lives on. Famous for singing morna, a genre of music from Cape Verde, her songs often explored love, nostalgia, and the history of Cape Verdean people. In the city that she lived her whole life, Cesaria is omnipresent, from banknotes to the local cafes, where friends and acquaintances still share tales from the musician's extraordinary life. Mindelo is soon opening a new museum dedicated to their beloved diva.
A European telescope studying the dark universe has unveiled new images of distant galaxies, advancing our understanding of cosmic structures and the universe's evolution.
This is the universe as seen through the lens of the Euclid telescope. 26 million galaxies captured so far, 35 terabytes of images, which have been put together to form a map of the cosmos. And this is just the beginning. It's only 1 week's work of mapping the sky. The mission, carried out by the European Space Agency, is due to last 6 years, over which researchers hope to map 1/3 of the extragalactic sky with such detail. Some of these galaxies are over 10 billion light years away from us, and by scanning them multiple times, the telescope will capture them at different stages of their evolution. And this, scientists hope, will help understand how structures have formed and changed. Euclid's nickname is the Dark Universe Detective. Its ultimate purpose is to shed some light on dark matter, which is believed to be what holds galaxies together, as well as on dark energy. Dark energy pulls galaxies apart by making the universe expand faster and faster over time.
Well, that's a wrap from all of us here at World News Tonight. Stay tuned as Anuradhi Wickramasinghe will be shortly joining you with the nightly business report. I'm Prashansa Gunawardana, and we leave you with dazzling sights as Valencia bursts back to life with fiery brilliance at the iconic Fallas Festival. Thank you for watching us and have a good night.